seats in the whole of Scotland, 56 now governed by the SNP. Alex Salmond amongst those MPs who headed downstream and joined us here in London. What's the first thing that you're going to do, Mr. Salmond?
Well, the first thing is to introduce the new members to the procedures of the House of Commons so as we can act collectively as a group. I'm delighted to be on your programme, Kate. I watched it last week and you seem to have somebody on predicting my electoral demise, so I'm just so glad to be here, Kate.
Fabulous. So what's the first thing you're going to do then? You say that you're going to show them the ropes, then what?
Well, we've articulated, as Nicola Sturgeon did so brilliantly during the election campaign, our programme, and the first thing is to try and oppose austerity, to try and oppose the cut agenda of the Conservative Party. It's not going to be easy because the Tories have a majority, but nonetheless we're duty-bound to do it in the interests of Scotland and the interests of people across the United Kingdom. Secondly, we want to see delivered to Scotland the promises, commitments, the vow that was made to us last September, and we want to see that redeemed in full. And thirdly, of course, we want to oppose the suggestion, the lunatic suggestion, that they should spend £100,000 million over the next generation in renewing the weapons of mass destruction on the River Clyde. So these are three clear areas of priority. And with that and the European question, where I think David Cameron's going to run very quickly into the sand, is going to give us plenty to do, Kate.
You have two parliaments now. You're just showing off, aren't you?
Well, I think the Scottish Parliament's working rather well. The Scottish Parliament, I think we should rename it the Popular Parliament. This one we'll have to try and make a bit more popular.
In what way?
Well, the Scottish Parliament is regarded highly in public esteem, which is one of the features of the last few years. This Parliament has rather struggled, but perhaps not just people in Scotland, but people across the UK, if they see some different, perhaps more radical voices coming from this Parliament, I think that will help raise it in esteem. We'll try and play a constructive role, of course we will, but we'll also try and present an alternative view to the one that's dominated the sessions of the Westminster Parliament, which many people must find deeply disillusioning because it seems to bear no relationship to the hardship they're suffering in their lives.
What would you say to the suggestion that you will be a constant thorn in the side of this Conservative government?
Well, I mean, I think there's no great hardship in Scotland that may regard as a thorn in the side of the Conservative Party. I mean, I plead guilty. I've been a thorn in the side of the Conservative Party for a quarter of a century. So much so as they had only 14% of the vote left in Scotland last week. That's a record low, incidentally, and that's plumbed new depths for the Tory party. So a thorn in the side of the Tory party is something we want to do, but we'll also articulate a positive and different vision, and hopefully we'll manage to make an impact with that positive case for a new direction for Scotland, certainly, but across the UK.
You must be so frustrated that the Conservatives ran what was ultimately a successful campaign of linking you with the Labour Party and saying if you vote Labour you'll get the SNP and look what they will do to the country's finances. You must be disappointed because you don't have as a party the same level of influence as perhaps you would have done if Labour had won.
Well, we found the results in England very disappointing, but then I'm sure many people in England found the results very disappointing. Remember, the Tory mandate's based on about 37% of the vote, so lots and lots of people across England would find that the same. I've met lots of folk in London today just travelling in from Heathrow who were wishing the SNP well and hoping they can provide them with a voice as well as Scotland with a voice. So many people in England would find it disappointing. The nature of the Tory campaign was, as Gordon Brown described it, deeply anti-Scottish. That was the words of the former Prime Minister. The Tories have already paid a price for that in Scotland with their lowest ever share of the vote. So there's aspects of it. But in terms of the result of the election down here, then, I'd say that people like Ed Balls were the authors of their own destruction, not the Tory campaign. They should have pursued a different agenda, and if they had, then perhaps they would have rallied more opinion behind them.
Yeah, my question is, how disappointed are you that you don't have the same level of influence as you perhaps would have done if it had been a Labour government?
Well, I would have much preferred to see a balanced parliament, absolutely, and I think lots and lots of people across the country would be of the same opinion. Incidentally, we've found that balanced parliaments, minority governments have worked extremely well in Scotland. I ran one for 4 years and it was so popular that it became a majority government. So a lot of people would rather have had that than had the Tory majority we now face. The one thing I would say to you, Kay, is that I was here in the 1990s when John Major won re-election with a much bigger majority and a much bigger mandate than David Cameron has. And within 6 months, his government ran into the sand on the European question. I wouldn't be at all surprised if history in that sense was to repeat itself.
Much bigger. It was only another 8 or 9 seats, wasn't it? So it wasn't massive. So how do you feel about the fact that...
It's a majority of 21, Kay,
Yeah.
against...
It was?
It's a majority of 21 compared to a majority of 12.
Yeah, so 9 seats, as I suggested. What about Mr. Robertson? Angus Robertson, what role will he have, given that you're the big fish and you've come down here to sort everybody out?
Well, look, I've known Angus Robertson as long as he's been in politics. I've made it clear innumerable times over the last few months that I'll be delighted to serve under Angus as Angus being leader of the group. He has been an excellent leader of the group, an excellent campaign manager for this election. I mean, he's just delivered as campaign manager under Nicola Sturgeon's leadership a vote of 50% of the Scottish population. I mean, we thought we did well in 2011 when we got 45%. Nicola's just achieved 50%, which is almost unprecedented in a multi-party system. An extraordinary mandate, an extraordinary performance, and Angus is a very fine leader of the SNP group.
Great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.